Good evening, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good night, enjoying life, living life, loving life. I know it's Friday night. A lot of people are out, so I'm probably not going to get a lot of views tonight, but hopefully this video will go around as well. Wanted to talk to everybody again, of course, about all the problems that it teaches everybody and is causing havoc in their lives in all kinds of areas. And it's all done through banking. Every last bit of it done through banking. So what is banking? Banking is someone else taking care of your financial responsibilities. Like I said yesterday, the Social Security Administration is part of the problem, along with the IRS. Of course, the Federal Reserve, that's our main banking institution here in America. You've got the Treasury Department, and of course, United States Corporation. A few other things. You got the SEC, if you saw my post here earlier today, the Securities Exchange Commission. And basically, if we think about this, the main subject I've been speaking out a lot lately here is the Authorized Representative. And when we look at the Authorized Representative, what we're talking about, and I've mentioned it before, and a guy just posted a video on it in my group, showing a check and the signature line and how it's microprint, and it's not a line at all. It actually says authorized signature repeatedly. And that's what you're putting a signature on, is a statement that repeatedly says, in all caps letters, authorized signature. And so when we're thinking about this acronym BAR, B-A-R, and how it relates to the Federal Reserve and the Social Security account, the IRS, and all that, we have to understand that the Federal Reserve Act, along with the Social Security Act, Securities Exchange Act, the Emergency Internal Revenue Tax, Income Tax Act, everything that was part of the New Deal under in the late to mid 30s after the recession, is all part of the indoctrination into this banking organization. As I've said before, they're treating everybody as a transfer agent that is transferring debt instruments, and that event of transferring a debt instrument is known as a financial transaction. And when you're committing a financial transaction of transmitting a debt instrument, we have to understand whose debt instruments are we transferring. Are they actually ours? Are they the ones that we authored? Or are they, like I said, are they ones authored by somebody else that has copyrights on birth certificates? And we're talking about the form of the birth certificate, not the information on it, but the form. Is it the Vatican? Certificates of live birth. Does the state have copyright? Does each state have copyright on their own form of certificates of live birth? Does the IMF have a copyright on the Federal Reserve notes that are instituted through the Federal Reserve and the United States Treasury Department, IRS, Internal Revenue Service, for use by the United States Corporation and its public officials and corporate employees for trade and business? Or are they privately your documents? Are they an issuance from you? They're not? Then likely you've been authorized by somebody else, the one that created them, to act in that capacity. because I want to point out to you again, the Federal Reserve notes are specifically meant for use by public officials and corporate officials, and not private people. And that's why the Federal Reserve Act, along with which has the savings to suitors clause in there, along with the Social Security Act, Securities Exchange Commission, which was instituted, I think, in 1934. I'm not sure. It was part of the New Deal, and like I said, they all work together to make us bank authorized representatives. So let's think about this bar agent. If he's a bar agent, is he a bank authorized representative's agent? Is that the true subrogation? When you hire an attorney as a bank authorized representative, you've now given him the representation to be the bank authorized representative, and you're displacing yourself? I don't know. I don't give a fuck about none of it. I'm just putting it out there. Just concept, bank authorized representative. We already know we're authorized representative, and we already know that we're using banking instruments, and that's what we're authorized to represent, is that banking instrument. So are we bank authorized representatives? Are we the bar? Is everything truly as backward as I keep telling everybody? You know, we got to think about this stuff. Are they bar agents? And they're only bar agents when somebody hires them as an agent, because that one that's hiring them is a bank authorized representative, and a bank, being a fictional entity, needs a representative. And if you're not competent to represent the bank, see, you're in their eyes, you're not representing yourself, you're representing a fucking bank. See how backwards it gets? That's the presumption. Okay? So if you're actually acting as a bank authorized representative and you hire an attorney, he is now a bar attorney. Understand that? Bank authorized representative's attorney, because the bank authorized representative is incompetent to represent the bank. So, two options. If you're incompetent to represent the bank as an authorized representative, do you either want to hire an attorney or cancel the authorized representative position? Because otherwise, you have a third option, and that is to continue being that bank authorized representative and learn their 8 million codes, 8 million plus codes. And remember, that banking authorized representative extends from the IMF, and that's because it was stated on your original statement of live birth, included a birth number that was assigned through IMF regulations, which ties everything together for the financial transactions seeking economic substance. And like I said earlier in my post on the SEC, if the Federal Reserve notes hold zero value and they're used as a world currency for foreign exchange by being the standard set of value, then anything it's exchanged for doesn't have any value either. So if we're exchanging Federal Reserve notes here for Canadian notes there, are the Canadian notes worth anything? If we're changing them over for francs over in another country, are they worth anything? If they're not worth anything here, are they worth anything there? And if they're not worth anything there, whatever they're being exchanged for there, is that worth anything? If they're being exchanged for Dutch marks, are the Dutch marks worth anything? Some serious shit people need to start thinking about. And if you're a bank authorized representative representing something that has zero value, almost seems like that's incompetence right from the beginning. So let's really think about this. What is BAR? Does it mean bank authorized representative? Is that what a bar agent is all about? A lot of bank authorized representatives out there that can't do their banking, and they prove it by opening a bank account with a foreign agency to have them do their finances. And remember, these banks operate as trust companies. And when you open that bank account, you're handing over the trust account number. You have to have a Social Security number to open that account. That's the Federal Reserve Bank. They require that Social Security account. Why? It's part of their banking procedures. That's how they assign you as authorized representative. Think about this stuff, people. It's all a quasi-contract on an international level, and it's called fraud. It's not just fraud upon America. It's fraud upon every country or every nation that uses the monetary currency system that has no value. That's why they got rid of Muammar Gaddafi. There are so many countries out there that are using this fake currency. And he started demanding substance in exchange for his nationals' products. Not his national product, his nationals' products. Those were his people's products. And that's why that country did so well. He passed along all those, quote, profits to his people. College funding, maternity leaves for a year. For both parents. Small business loans. Everything. And we went in and killed them. Over Federal Reserve notes handed down through the IMF, which hands down currencies for many different nations throughout this world. And they all contract to the IMF and the UN as corporate charters. And when they do that, the Vatican hands them a nice little account book. City of London does all the accounting. Washington, D.C. does all the regulations. And New York is the new capital of the world. Well, actually, it's been capital of the world for quite a while now. That's where the UN sits. That's what the New World Order is all about. Trying to get everybody into a system that has no value to it. And as long as you keep believing that it has value, you're going to keep giving it credit. You're going to keep placing that value into that system. I'm tired of paying for my father's sins. And I wish you'd fucking quit. Because if you don't, the next generation is going to pay for your sins. And I really hope you guys think about this stuff. Because like I said, you really need to research this stuff on your own. And because when I tell you that the checks, that line isn't a line, you can look at it all you want, and you're not going to see it. You have to get a magnifying glass, a microscope out, or a good heavy-duty camera that can enlarge it enough so you can see it for yourself. I don't want you watching a video of somebody else doing it. I want you to get your own goddamn checkbook out. I know you got one. His checkbook out. Look at it. It says Authorized Representative. And when we're talking about financial transactions, we're talking about commerce. And so when we talk about commerce, we're talking about the Uniform Commercial Code. Now, this is something that was started clear back in 1889. It was just, back then, it was just a uniform set of state laws for commercial reasons. And it's been constructed over a period of time, over the next 60 years or so, until it was finally enacted in the United States system, again, as a set of state laws, where each state could amend it to its own purposes, its own use, because of diverse commonalities from one state to another. For instance, Louisiana. Louisiana is a state that follows French law still. The rest of the United States follows what's known as common law. Louisiana goes by French law, same as Canada. And so when we think about this, the Uniform Commercial Code is for all financial transactions, all debt instruments. And it says clearly and unambiguously, Section 3-402, subsection B, subpart 1, the one giving the authorized representative giving an unambiguous authorized signature on the instrument is not liable for the person named in the instrument. And that's for two reasons. The instrument itself was instituted through the IMF, through a contract, quasi-contract, through the United States Corporation of the Treasury, the IRS, the Federal Reserve, Social Security Administration, Securities Exchange Commission. And it's all fraud, because the IMF assigned the financial intent of seeking economic substance to the original statement of live birth first, and then all the other parties followed in and made their little certificates, including the county registrar who first certificated it. They call it certification, but he certificated it. And certificated means instrumentalized. He changed it from a document to a financial instrument by assigning it certain information. And then he passed that information on, and from that point on, it's been nothing but fraud. And you guys really need to understand how simple it is. You've been assigned an authorized representative by somebody. If it wasn't you, find out who, and if they won't tell you, then quit. There's a thing out there known as private national bankers, or private bankers national, PBNBA. Private Bankers National Bankers Association. And I suggest you look them up. Learn what the private banking laws are all about. You can establish yourself. You're already known as a bank through the Federal Reserve Act, Savings to Suitors Clause, Social Security Administration, all that stuff. They're already considering you a bank. You already know how to write a check. You need to learn the rest of it. Like I said, these banks can operate as a trust company. If you're operating yourself as a bank, you don't need to do this on a DBA through the Minnesota, because that conforms you to the Uniform Commercial Code within the United States system as part of their public banking system. I suggest if you're going to do the private banking stuff, you do it on an international business corporation through a private offshore banking system like the Belize IBC. There are different ways you can register your international business corporation, and Belize is one of them. Belize is an entire country known as a private bank organization. So think about this stuff and realize you're an authorized representative for financial instruments through somebody. Who authorized it? And like I said, I quit it. I can't nobody authorize any authority over me anymore. I am who I say I am. Let my yea be my yea and my nay be my nay. I am God Almighty. Follow me and be blameless. And that's what it's all about. Living in truth. And so when you see this stuff and you divulge the truth and they can't fucking rebut it, that's your remedy. I prove time and time again. All you got to do is point out the truth to them. But you got to know that truth first, and you can't sit there and listen to me and believe it. You have to do your own research and know it. So I urge, when I put this information out there, it takes very little time, and I understand I don't do this but 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you ain't got all that time because you got a job. You're employed. You're earning wages, producing income and revenue for taxation and levy purposes. You have a right to much better. And I can't prove in your mind that it's much better, because I do without a lot of things that a lot of people believe are necessities that are actually conveniences. You know, I got into all this majorly here the last 3.5 years ago over this automobile thing, and I haven't had an automobile since, but I'm a lot freer without it right now. Granted, one day I hope to get another automobile, but I'm only going to do it through trade and barter, and it's a harder route. It's a much lonelier route. There are very few people out there that even know what bartering is about. And therefore, they're not willing to do it much. They'd rather have a fucking Federal Reserve note. Sad. You think about who you're representing when you start passing those Federal Reserve notes. You're representing the Almighty God. God bless America. Under God we trust. International Monetary Fund, Federal Reserve, Social Security, United States, Securities Exchange Commission, some Uniform Law Commission. Who is the Uniform Law Commission? Where do they get their authority? Was it handed down by God? Did God tell them to make a set of uniform commercial codes? I don't think so. God said He already gave you everything freely. That you're supposed to go forth and be prosperous and abundant so you can give freely from there. So what's all this shit about interest rates? Inflation, surcharges, fines, fees, penalties, taxes, impositions. An imposition is a force. When you impose something on somebody, you're forcing it on them. So think about this stuff. That's why they presume authority over you. They authorize you as a representative to do the banking transactions. You're proving yourself incompetent, and so therefore you're required to have a bar attorney. I know it seems sick and perverted and might sound like I'm a conspiracy theorist. But like I said, I'm not saying this is true. I'm just putting it out there as an idea, concept, something I think you might want to think about. Because if they're treating you, presuming you, assuming you, implying you to be an authorized representative in banking transactions, therefore aren't you a bank authorized representative and therefore a bar yourself? And therefore when you hire an attorney, he is now a bar attorney. Is it really British Accreditation Registry? I've never seen any such registry. If there is, it's probably a private registry. IMF operates privately. Federal Reserve operates privately. Social Security Administration operates privately. Securities Exchange Commission operates privately. Federal Reserve Commission operates privately. United States Corporation operates privately. Let's see, the Treasury operates privately. You think they're going to put their public records out on the international forum? No. But if they're calling you a bank authorized representative, don't you have a freedom of information? And yet they don't want to give that. So who's really authorizing what? Where is the authorization coming from? And how come you don't want to fucking tell me? Huh? Inquiring minds want to fucking know. Really pissed me off when Mom looked at me and said, Keith, the police are your authority. The fuck they are. The fuck they are. Author, your word. Jurisdiction, of right word. I author my jurisdiction, and I do so verbally. Prove all things. That was quick and simple to author. Prove it. Prove that I'm a banking authorized representative. Prove that I'm authorized representative. Prove that I'm representative in any manner whatsoever. I'm not representative at all. I am present. And you shall know my presence. For when you call Keith, you call the Spirit of God. And so long as I follow him, I am blameless. Take you and your banking, shove it up your ass. Take you and your authorization and shove it up your ass. Take you and your representation and shove it up your ass. I don't want any of it. I don't need it. I understand it's just a convenience. And a convenience that takes advantage of others. Do no harm. I'm not going to take advantage of anybody. So I really hope you guys think about this. Because I do all this for you guys. I'm not sitting here investigating all these banking laws. I'm not researching these banking laws and IRS codes, traffic and transportation codes, Social Security Act, Federal Reserve Act. I'm not researching this because I have any involvement in it anymore. I haven't signed anything in almost 4 years. I don't have any bank accounts, no credit cards, no contracts whatsoever. I do everything by barter. I have a proven track record of refuse to sign on their own documents with their own writing, refuse to sign. Plus 3 years prior to that, a good extensive record of UCC 1-308 and then just never showing up. That's my authority. I just don't give it anymore. You want my authority? Sorry, I can't give it. Can't do it. I have to hold my own authority in order to show others how to hold theirs. And this is why I say you guys have to do your own research. You can't just sit here and watch these videos and read all the articles and everything that everybody's putting out and say that you know it. You're not going to know it until you have experience. Experience is the key to wisdom. Experience is the key to getting rid of the fear. Because as long as you believe, then you still have this thing where you have to discern what is concerning you. Because if you have a belief, then you don't know. You can only believe one side because you haven't investigated the other side or another option. Many times it's multifaceted, so there's more than two sides. So you have to investigate more than one or two options. That's why I say when you're doing your research and you plug something into your research engine, you don't just look at the first thing on the page and say, okay, now I know. I'll go through the whole page and the next page, and you'll see sometimes there's 17 pages. Sometimes you'll get into subjects where there's hundreds of pages. And you just have to go deep. Do more than just one article. You see somebody posting something on here and you want to ask them for the source. Source it yourself first. Quote a headline or something and punch it into your search engine and see if you can find the same article they got. And then when you punch that up and you find that article and you see the other articles around that, look at the dates, look at the sources, and compare them. Do your own research. When you're researching this United States Code, look up U.S. Code case law collections. And that'll give you a collection of your disability case laws, your travel case laws, your family case laws, civil case laws, criminal case laws, various different case laws collections. So that when you're doing these court cases and you have a specific issue, you can look at that case law. That's why I say when you see these checks, when you research these checks and you put it under a microphone or a microscope yourself and you see that it actually says that you're an authorized representative and you start searching these codes for authorized representative, punch in U.S. Code, authorized representative, defined. Punch in United States Code or Uniform Commercial Code, authorized representative, defined. Punch in your state statute, authorized representative, defined, and find out how they're compared throughout those jurisdictions, if they even follow down through those jurisdictions. Sometimes they won't call them authorized representatives. Sometimes they call them employees. Sometimes they call them public officials. Sometimes they call them corporate officials. Not always do they call it transportation. Sometimes they call it traffic. Sometimes they call it commerce. Sometimes they call it trade. Sometimes they call it trade or business. So let's cut out all the ambiguity and let's get fucking concise. Let's clarify this shit and prove all things. Quit fucking believing. I don't. I ask him, so does that bar mean bank authorized representative? Because I noticed here on this check it says I'm an authorized representative. And I also noticed that in UCC it says 3-402B subpart 1, authorized representative giving unambiguous authorized signature on the instrument is not liable for the person named in the instrument. So is that what you're telling me? Let's be concise, motherfuckers. But I really wish you would ask these questions before you sign. That's why we pay for our father's sins. They're quick to sign documents. Real quick. They signed the Constitution so quick that they had to turn around and make an amendment to it, a list of amendments called the Bill of Rights, a year later, because they had to get that Constitution written and published, damn it. We got to get it out hot off the press. Let's influence somebody's minds. Let's spread some propaganda. When we speak of the word person today, we can look up all these definitions of persons, but we see the word person used in the Constitution, but nowhere in the Constitution does it define the word person. So what was the intent of the use of the word person in the Constitution? Did they really mean the same thing as people when they were talking about we the people in the Declaration of Independence? Do people and persons mean the same thing? Over time, did that definition change because their intent changed? Did that Declaration of Independence, was that representative of the people? Did that make us authorized representatives of the Declaration of Independence? When the Constitution used the word person, does that mean all persons are authorized representatives of the Constitution? Does it mean the Constitution is authorized representative of all persons? Let's clarify this shit and be concise, because I don't understand. I'm an idiot when it comes to all of your words. I didn't author them. I don't know what their intent is. It's been said that the intent of the acronym BAR stands for almost 200 different things. Could you please clarify? You say you're a bar attorney and you're required to have a bar license. What does BAR stand for? Let's be concise. Seems pretty simple to me. Ask and ye shall receive. Anyway, being it's a Friday night, late at night, and I didn't want to interrupt your night. I'm glad you stopped by and watched and listened. I hope you're hearing. I hope you're learning. I hope you're passing it on. And I want you to remember, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. I love each and every last one of you. And that's what I present. I'm not going to represent it. You should know it. And you shouldn't recognize it. You should be cognizant of it already. It should remain intact, so you don't have to retrieve your cognizance. So remember again, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. I have no interest to enter the banking world again. I don't need financial transactions. It's just a convenience. I'll work hard to pay for my father's sins so I can teach others how to live a simple life without the community's secular society of bullshit banking. And I know, like I said, a lot of you guys, you're kind of stuck in your position of having to deal with the financial system because you've got families. But there are little things you can do along the way to learn so that you can start retracting this shit. I suggest all of you people that are employed and have those JOBs, start learning what the tax system's all about and that it's all fraud. All you have to do is fill out a W-9 that says clearly and unambiguously exempt. You make the claim that you're exempt, and I guarantee you they have not a goddamn thing they can do to rebut it, because there is no law that says you are required. None. There's just ambiguity in the words that they use, and they have no right of enforcement. Period. You file a W-9 with your employer, and then at tax time you file an I-9, sole proprietor. None of your fucking business. Private between me and this guy that's paying my paycheck. Anyway, again, I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you guys. God bless. Love you. Have a great night.